Hello, I'm Dr. Sandra Freihofer. Welcome to Medicine Matters. The topic, RSV Protection 2025, a new monoclonal antibody for baby and new age-expanded indications for adults. Here's why it matters. RSV's a real threat for little babies, older adults, and younger adults at high risk. That's why RSV protection for them is so important. Let's start with grown-ups, and then we'll move on to protecting tiny tots. Each year, 60 to 160,000 older adults are hospitalized from RSV, and 6 to 10,000 of them die. ACIP's new recommendation for RSV vaccines for adults is still both age-based and risk-based. All adults aged 75 and older should receive a single RSV vaccine dose. That hasn't changed. But for age risk recommendation, it has. It's been expanded to include adults in their 50s. So now adults age 50 to 75 with risk factors for severe RSV are also recommended to get a dose of RSV vaccine. These risk factors include lung disease, heart disease, immune compromise, diabetes, obesity with a BMI of 40 or more, neurological conditions, neuromuscular conditions, chronic kidney disease, liver disorders, and hematologic disorders. Also frailty, as well as living in a nursing home or other long-term care facility. Everyone age 75 and older, as well as those age 50 up to 75 with these risk factors should receive it. Those age 50 to 75 without these risk factors should not. 3 RSV vaccines are currently available. All 3 target the pre-fusion F protein on the surface of the virus. 2 of the vaccines are recombinant protein subunit vaccines. One by GSK called RSV contains an adjuvant. The other one by Pfizer called Abrezvo does not contain an adjuvant, but it is bivalent. The third option is an mRNA version called Enflanzia. No preferential recommendation for a particular product for those 50 and older was made, but their current FDA age approvals do vary and may change. All 3 RSV vaccines are licensed for those 60 and older and for those in their 50s at increased RSV risk. Pfizer's Abrezvo and Moderna's Enflanzia are also licensed for adults even younger. They're FDA approved for those as young as 18, but only if they're at increased risk of severe RSV. Vaccine safety is always a top concern when looking at benefits and risk of vaccination. An RSV vaccine safety signal concern for GBS has been detected. The risk is small but real and has been confirmed in follow-up studies. So when's the best time for these adults to get a dose of RSV vaccine? RSV seasonality has now returned to pre-pandemic trends and is generally October through March. The best time to get RSV vaccine is late summer, early fall, so that means August through October, which is right before RSV season begins. Co-administration with other adult vaccines is allowed and acceptable. Now for the tiny tots. RSV is also the most common cause of hospitalization for infants in the U.S. In the absence of RSV prevention products, most infants are infected with RSV in their first year of life, and nearly all these little ones have had it by the time they hit 2 years old. Before we had RSV prevention products, each year in the U.S., 50 to 80,000 children under the age of 5 were hospitalized with RSV. 100 to 300 of them died. Most hospitalizations for RSV are in healthy, full-term infants with no underlying medical conditions. That means all infants are at risk. The good news is we now have 2 ways to protect little babies with passive immunization: a maternal dose of RSV vaccine given to pregnant moms, or a dose of monoclonal antibody given to baby. A maternal RSV vaccine dose can be given at 32 to 36 weeks, September to January, to moms who will deliver their baby during RSV season. But only Abrezvo, the protein-based RSV vaccine without the adjuvant, can be used. The other option is babies under 8 months old entering their first RSV season can receive a dose of long-acting monoclonal antibody. Now, RSV season can vary geographically, but for most of the continental U.S., that would mean monoclonal antibody would be given to baby from October through March. But what's new for this year is we now have not just one, but 2 monoclonal antibodies to choose from. Nirsevimab, brand name Beyfortus by Sanofi, was FDA approved back in July 2023. But now we also have clazrovimab, brand name Enflanzia by Merck. It was just recently approved by FDA in June. Both maternal RSV vaccination and infant antibody can protect infants against severe RSV disease, but you don't need both. Only one or the other is recommended in most instances, but there can be some exceptions. RSV antibody can be considered for infants born to vaccinated mothers if the baby was born less than 14 days after maternal vaccination, if the mother has an immunocompromising condition and can't mount an adequate immune response, or if the infant has certain medical conditions. For infants born shortly before or during RSV season, monoclonal antibody should be given within 1 week of birth, ideally during hospitalization. Both monoclonal antibody products have been included in the Vaccines for Children program. Both products are also options for babies under 8 months old entering their first RSV season, but the dosing is different. For nirsevimab, the dose for infants in their first RSV season is weight dependent. 50 milligrams for smaller babies under 11 pounds and 100 milligrams for bigger babies weighing 11 pounds or more. Dosing is simpler for clazrovimab. A single dose of 105 milligrams is recommended regardless of the child's weight. So that's for babies in their first RSV season. For high-risk toddlers age 8 to 19 months who still need protection in their second RSV season, only nirsevimab at a dose of 200 milligrams is recommended at this time. Having 2 monoclonal antibody products to choose from reduces the risk of having a shortage. Also, market competition between the 2 products might drive down the price. Another added benefit is the binding site of the 2 products is a little different, which could be beneficial if resistant mutations develop to either product. RSV vaccines have been available since 2023. So if you already received a dose in the past, you don't need another one, at least for now. This 1-dose recommendation also applies to maternal vaccination. Pregnant people who received a dose of maternal RSV vaccine during a previous pregnancy are not recommended to receive additional doses during future pregnancies. But infants born to people who were vaccinated for RSV during a prior pregnancy can receive a dose of monoclonal antibody. So what about safety and effectiveness? Studies of the 2024-2025 RSV season presented at ACIP showed both nirsevimab and maternal vaccination were effective against RSV-associated emergency department visits and hospitalizations. For infants exposed to nirsevimab, vaccine safety data link review was reassuring. An update from VSD, the vaccine safety data link for the 2023-2024 season, showed maternal vaccination with Abrezvo was not associated with increased risk for preterm birth or small gestational age at birth or for stillbirth. However, it was associated with a small but statistically increased risk for hypertensive disorders during pregnancy. Recommendations are only as reliable as the data evidence review on which they are based. The recommendation to lower the age to 50 for the risk-based RSV vaccine recommendation and the data review for the new monoclonal antibody were made before HHS Secretary Kennedy fired the previous 17-person ACIP panel and replaced them with his own handpicked 7, many of whom have preconceived bias against vaccine. The ACIP recommendation to include clazrovimab as a long-acting monoclonal antibody option for babies younger than 8 months entering their first RSV season was voted on by the new panel, but was based on the evidence review that was put together before Kennedy made this panel change. For Medicine Matters, I'm Dr. Sandra Freihofer.